Welcome to the Black Gods Podcast. Today we're talking about the oversexualization of Black women and why it's time to shift that narrative because the truth is, Black women are more than our bodies. We are more than shaking our bodies for entertainment. We are more than what is constantly pushed and promoted to represent us, and it's important that we say that clearly. For a long time, Black women have been boxed into very limited roles, roles that focus on performance, entertainment, and physical expression, but not enough on our depth, our intelligence, our spirituality, or our ability to heal and lead. And when that's the only image that gets pushed, it starts to shape how people see us and even how we see ourselves, but that is not the full picture. Black women are medicine women. We are mothers, we are healers, we are innovators, we are creators of life, of ideas, of systems, of culture. We carry wisdom that goes beyond what is often shown, and it's time for us to expand what is visible because right now, many of the main paths that are pushed for success in our community are limited. Music, entertainment, sports, and while there is nothing wrong with those paths, they are not the only paths. We are more than that. We need more spaces where Black women are seen as healers, as spiritual leaders, as people doing energy work, herbalism, wellness, guidance, and transformation. We need more visibility for that. We need more support for that because healing is just as powerful as entertainment. And in many ways, it's even more necessary. Our communities are dealing with real things: stress, trauma, generational patterns, emotional weight, and we need people who are equipped to help navigate that, people who are grounded, aware, and connected. And that's where healing comes in. That's where spirituality, wellness, and deeper knowledge come in. And Black women and Black men have always had a connection to that. Our ancestors were healers. They worked with the earth, they worked with plants, they understood the body, they understood balance. They didn't just treat symptoms, they understood the root. And a lot of that knowledge didn't disappear, it just became less visible. So when we talk about tapping back into our roots, we're not talking about going backward. We're talking about reconnecting with knowledge that has always been there. Because modern systems don't always have every answer. There are things our ancestors understood about healing, about balance, about life that are still being rediscovered today. And that knowledge still lives through us, through our bloodline, through our memory, through our intuition. But in order to access that, we have to be willing to see ourselves differently. We have to be willing to step outside of the limited roles that were placed on us. Because if the only thing we see is entertainment, then that becomes the only thing we believe is possible. But that's not true. There is space for Black women to be leaders in healing. There is space for Black men to be leaders in healing. There is space for our community to expand beyond what has been normalized. We can have more herbalists, more energy workers, more guides, more teachers, more people focused on wellness, growth, and transformation, and not only exist, but be supported because support matters. What we celebrate grows, what we invest in expands. So if we start celebrating healing the same way we celebrate entertainment, we will start to see more people step into that space. We will start to see more balance. We will start to see more options. And that changes the direction of a community. Now, this is not about rejecting one path for another. This is about expanding. It's about recognizing that we are multidimensional. We can be creative and healing. We can be expressive and grounded. We can be visible and still rooted in purpose. But we have to give ourselves permission to be more. And we also have to support each other in that. Because sometimes when people choose a different path, especially one that is not as mainstream, they don't get the same recognition. They don't get the same support. And that needs to change because the work of healing is valuable. The work of helping people grow, understand themselves, and move differently, that is powerful work, and it deserves to be seen. It deserves to be respected. It deserves to be appreciated. So when we say Black women are more than what is often shown, we mean that fully. We mean we have depth. We have intelligence. We have intuition. We have the ability to heal, not just ourselves, but others. And when we tap into that, when we reconnect with that, when we allow ourselves to explore that, we step into a different level of power, a more grounded power, a more intentional power, a more sustainable power. And that's what we need more of. Not just visibility, but alignment. Not just success, but purpose. Not just performance, but healing. Because at the end of the day, we are not here to be limited. We are here to expand. And once we realize that, we stop fitting into boxes and we start creating new spaces, spaces where we are fully seen, fully respected, fully expressed. And this is where it starts with the younger generation. Because young Black girls and young Black boys need to see more. They need to see themselves in more than just one or two lanes. Right now, a lot of what is pushed to them as success is very limited: basketball, football, music, entertainment. And again, there is nothing wrong with those paths. But when that's all that's visible, it starts to feel like that's all that's possible. And that's not true, because when a child only sees one version of success, they start to shape their dreams around that one version. They start to believe, this is the only way I can make it. And if they don't fit into that path, they start to feel like they don't have a place. That's where the problem begins. We need more representation. We need young Black girls to see Black women as healers, as spiritual leaders, as herbalists, as energy workers, as teachers, as innovators, as business owners, as women who are grounded, wise, and aligned. We need young Black boys to see Black men who are not just athletes or entertainers, but men who are builders, healers, protectors, thinkers, and leaders in different spaces. Because when they see that, it expands their vision. It shows them that they don't have to fit into one box to be successful. It shows them that there are multiple paths, multiple ways to express themselves, multiple ways to live. And that's how you inspire a generation, not by limiting them, but by showing them options. Because representation shapes imagination. If a child never sees something, it becomes harder for them to believe they can be it. But when they see someone who looks like them doing something different, something powerful, something meaningful, it plants a seed. It makes them think, I can do that too. And that matters more than people realize, because a lot of people are not lacking ability, they're lacking exposure. They just haven't seen what's possible. So when we talk about having more healers, more spiritual workers, more people in wellness, more people doing deeper work, we're not just talking about adults. We're talking about the next generation. We're talking about creating new examples. Because if all young people see is entertainment, they're going to chase entertainment. But if they see healing, knowledge, growth, and purpose being valued and respected, they will start to move toward that too. And that's how you shift a culture, not by forcing it, but by expanding what's visible, by showing different paths, by supporting different paths, by celebrating different paths. Because what gets celebrated becomes what people aim for. So if we start celebrating healers the way we celebrate entertainers, if we start uplifting people doing meaningful, grounded work, if we start showing young people that there is power in knowledge, in healing, in self awareness, that's when things begin to change. That's when the mindset shifts. That's when young Black girls grow up knowing they are more than what society tries to define them as. That's when young Black boys grow up knowing they don't have to perform to be valued. They can build, lead, and grow in different ways. And that creates balance, because we don't need less of one path. We need more options, more visibility, more support, more representation, so the next generation can see themselves fully, not limited, not boxed in, but expanded. And when that happens, you don't just change individuals, you change the future. And when you really sit back and look at everything we talked about, it all connects. The oversexualization, the limited roles, the lack of representation, the disconnection from healing, the fear around spirituality, the distance from our roots, it's all part of the same pattern, a pattern that keeps us distracted, a pattern that keeps us limited, a pattern that keeps us from fully stepping into who we are. Because if you only see yourself as entertainment, you'll only move in entertainment. If you only see yourself as a body, you'll only value your body. If you only see one one path, you'll think that's the only path available to you. But the truth is, we are so much more than that. We are not one dimensional. We are layered. We are complex. We are powerful in ways that go beyond what is constantly shown. And when we start reconnecting with that, everything begins to shift. When Black women start seeing themselves as healers, as leaders, as innovators, not just performers, that shifts identity. When Black men start stepping into roles of building, protecting, guiding, not just surviving, that shifts community. When we start tapping into our roots, our knowledge, our ancestral wisdom, that shifts awareness. And when awareness shifts, everything else follows because now you're not moving blindly anymore. You're not just reacting to what's being shown to you. You're not just following what's popular. You're not just fitting into roles that were given to you. You're choosing, you're creating, you're expanding, and that's where the real power is. Now bring that back to the younger generation because everything we do right now, everything we show, everything we support, everything we normalize, it shapes what they believe is possible. If young Black girls only see over sexualized images, they're going to think that's their value. If young Black boys only see success in sports or music, they're going to think that's their only option. But if they start seeing healers, if they start seeing spiritual leaders, if they start seeing entrepreneurs, if they start seeing people grounded, aligned, and purposeful, that changes everything because now their vision expands. Now they don't feel boxed in. Now they don't feel like they have to perform to be accepted. They can be. They can grow. They can explore who they truly are. And that's what we need more of. Not just success, but aligned success. Not just visibility, but meaningful visibility. Not just representation, but diverse representation because we don't all come here to do the same thing. Some of us are meant to heal, some of us are meant to teach, some of us are meant to guide, some of us are meant to build. But if those paths are not shown, they don't get chosen. So it's our responsibility not just to talk about it, but to live it, to show it, to support it, to normalize it, to remind ourselves and each other that we are more than what has been pushed, more than what has been marketed, more than what has been limited. We are expansive. And once we truly understand that, once we truly step into that, we stop shrinking, we stop fitting into boxes, we stop chasing validation from systems that were never designed to see us fully, and we start building something different, something more grounded, something more aligned, something that actually reflects who we are. Because at the end of the day, this is not just about image. This is about identity. This is about reclaiming how we see ourselves, how we move, and what we believe is possible. And once that shifts, everything shifts. And let's take it even further because when we do step into these spaces, when we do create, and when we do innovate, when we do heal, we deserve to be appreciated for it. We deserve to be respected for it. We deserve to be celebrated for it, not resented, not overlooked, not exploited, because that's another pattern we have to break. Too often, when Black people create something powerful, whether it's culture, innovation, healing practices, or new ways of thinking, it gets taken, repackaged, and then separated from us. The recognition gets removed, the credit gets shifted, the appreciation disappears. And then somehow we become disconnected from the very things we created. That's a pattern. And it's something we have to become aware of so we don't keep repeating it. Because when we don't acknowledge our own greatness, someone else will take it and define it for us. So part of this work is not just creating, it's claiming, claiming your work, claiming your knowledge, claiming your voice, claiming your space, and also supporting each other because we can't expect the world to celebrate us if we don't celebrate each other first. If someone in our community is doing healing work, support them. If someone is building something different, support them. If someone is stepping outside of the norm, support them because that's how you protect what's yours. That's how you build something that lasts, not by competing, not by tearing each other down, but by recognizing value when you see it, because greatness should not be met with resentment. It should be met with respect. And the truth is, sometimes greatness triggers people. It makes people uncomfortable. It reflects what they haven't tapped into yet. It challenges what they thought was possible. But that's not a reason to tear it down. That's a reason to grow. So instead of resenting what's great, learn from it. Instead of trying to take from it, build your own. Instead of ignoring it, acknowledge it. Because when we start appreciating each other's greatness, we create a different environment, an environment where people feel safe to grow, safe to create, safe to innovate, safe to heal. And that kind of environment produces more ideas, more healing, more expansion, more progress. And that's what we need, not just individual success, but collective elevation. Because when one of us rises and is supported, it opens the door for others. It shows what's possible. It raises the standard. And that's how real change happens. So when we step into our greatness, whether it's through healing, innovation, spirituality, or anything else, we don't shrink it. We don't hide it. We stand in it fully, and we make sure we're creating spaces where that greatness is respected, protected, and appreciated, because we are not here to be exploited. We are here to expand. We are here to create. We are here to elevate not just ourselves, but each other. And once we truly move like that, everything changes. This is the Black Gods Podcast.